Okay, so Yves Saint Laurent, which of course is a biopic of Yves Saint Laurent. In fact, I even think that the poster image has got the YSL logo done in that sort of classic, Yves Saint Laurent way. So it's the story of the rise of Yves Saint Laurent, which it turns out, oddly enough, to be surprisingly lacking in incident. So you have the titular character, you meet him in the 1950s when he's becoming the head of Christian Dior fashion house. Then there's sort of mental issues that he has to deal with. There's a sort of breakdown. He's conscripted to the Algerian war, but then that doesn't happen. And then there's some sort of public disapproval of some of the statements that he made. But then they kind of all pass by, and then he meets up with Pierre Berge, who becomes his longtime partner, both personal and business. And then he designs a load of dresses, and there are a load of catwalk scenes, which are oddly similar. That basically what happens is that every year it comes up. There's the new line going to be put out, and then a bunch of people come on the catwalk, wearing the new designs, and then he says at the back, being very nervous and very fidgety, and he doesn't want to go on. And then at the end, everyone says, "No, go on, Pierre." They say it in French. "Non, avant, Pierre. Allons-y." No, that's not French. And then he goes out, and everyone applauds, and he looks a bit bashful. Allons-y is French, isn't it? Yeah. And on y va, or whatever it is. And then he goes out and everyone applauds, and then he looks a bit shy and a little bit bashful. And then, as he gets older, he starts to look less like Yves Saint Laurent, more like David Cronenberg with the glasses and the hair. And the film is basically a kind of a really quite surprisingly uneventful hagiography that looks like some kind of extended promo. And it's a weird thing because the performances are very solid, and you think there must be an interesting story behind all this, but the film itself is oddly boring. And I saw it in a cinema. I was watching it with Alan Jones, and I think we both sort of had exactly the same reaction to it, which was about halfway through. You could feel it, the room starting to get restless because, frankly, there's not a lot going on other than he designed some dresses. People wear the dresses. He's a bit shy. He's got some personal issues, but they're not terrible personal issues. And then at the end of the thing, he goes out and he looks a bit edgy and a bit nervy, and everybody claps, and he looks a bit shy. And then you go, and I mean, it's really strange that you can take a story, a life story of somebody who, because all the way through there's sort of hints that there must be a sort of more interesting thing going on in the background. And it is possible, I think, to take pretty much any life story and make it fascinating because everybody's life is an interesting thing. And in the case of this, it is just, even with the sort of the incidents that you have on screen, all they do is suggest that somewhere behind this there may be a way of telling this story in an interesting way, but this isn't it. And what you're actually getting with this, it's really unfortunate. It comes across like just a great big glossy advert. And no matter how hard the cast work, and they do work hard to immerse themselves in the role, you just think, well, it's just like watching a kind of, parade of fashion. And there have been documentaries about similar things about designers, which have been absolutely fascinating and full of personal incident and full of personal insight, and this just isn't it. And in comparison with, you remember when Saving Mr. Banks came out, and everyone said, well, Saving Mr. Banks is a Disney product and therefore it's going to go easy on Walt Disney. Believe me, compared to this, Saving Mr. Banks is an absolute trashing of Walt Disney. It is a very strange, well-behaved catwalk of a movie that is oddly dull.